It seems absolutely nuts that if, there's a possibility for me to extend my life by 30, 40, 50%, why wouldn't the powers that be, let's say, and the people with the money in their hand, surely they want to live for longer, right? So why are they not? It seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable. And actually, if you look at the funding for aging biology in the US, it's about $1 per American. And you just think aging causes 85% of deaths in the US, because if you add up the cancer, the heart disease, the dementia, all of these things, it's by far, most people make it into old age, and that's by far the majority cause of death. So it's wild to me. And I think that the reason is, and this is actually fundamentally the reason I wrote the book, is that people aren't aware of this science. If you're a politician and you're pulling the strings in terms of science funding, you might have relatives who've died of cancer, you might have relatives or friends who've died of heart disease, but you don't join the dots and think, oh, it was the aging process that caused those diseases in the first place. And getting that understanding out there, I think, is absolutely critical. And I think the same applies. I'm often baffled by, imagine I was a billionaire. Unfortunately, I'm not.
Well, I was about to say, forget the politicians for a moment. They've got a job to do, right? But the billionaires, surely they understand that through the money that they have, they're extending their own lives. I'm sure they've looking at medicines for themselves, transport, whatever it might be. I was about to go into sci-fi stuff, but I won't. Whatever it might be, why wouldn't they fund something like this? It seems counterintuitive.
I think it's primarily lack of awareness, because I think, from the handful of extremely wealthy people I've spoken to about this, they're just like you and me. Like, they haven't necessarily been informed about this stuff. They just happen to have enough money that they could actually move the needle in terms of the research. So I think what we need to do, again, is just get the word out, because once these people understand that, you can't take that with you. Like that is what you're alluding to. Like, if I had $1 billion, I would spend 995 million, like maybe more, right? on this kind of research, because what am I going to do with all that money? And obviously it wouldn't just, because the other thing is, this could be an investment. Because if you think about an anti-aging drug, say you develop a drug for cancer, it's for a specific kind of cancer. There's going to be a handful of patients with that specific variety, that specific kind of cancer. Those are the people you can help. Super important, by the way. Cancer research I'm also in favor of. But imagine instead you develop a drug that slows down aging. The market for that drug is every living human, because all of us are aging. And so that means this is potentially the biggest industry ever. And yet, people are sitting on the sidelines and not investing. Partly that's because I think we need to do some more basic science to get things to the point where they are investable.
So Andrew, the small amount of money that I have in my bank account, where should it go? What shares and stocks should I buy in this industry, do you think?
I think for small-time investors like you and me, the best thing to do is probably just...
No, sorry, not small-time. Tiny investors like myself, yeah.
I think the best thing to do is stick your money in an index fund and allow the market to decide. Because honestly, the problem with biotech, and this is the fundamental problem with science, right? It's super, super unpredictable. If you're wealthy and you can invest in 100 biotechs, one of those biotechs might make an absolutely, whacking amount of cash and pay back your own original investment. But for small-time chaps, like you and I, unfortunately, we haven't got the ability to spread our investment across such a broad portfolio. And so, it's just too high risk. And I think this is fundamentally actually why, as well as hopefully attracting, wealthy investors into this space, we also need the government funding, because that then means that we can spread the risk across the whole of society. And if you think about developing a vaccine for a minute, there was a possibility that $20 might not have got anywhere. Those vaccines might just not have worked. We got lucky, essentially, with COVID. And so what you need is, we just need to put more money together collectively, and particularly with basic research. You just never know what's going to work. Companies are unpredictable, but basic research is a whole nother animal. And what you need is the scale of a government. Imagine we invested in 500 potential anti-aging therapies. Even if 499 of them don't work, that 500th one suddenly nails it. And that means it massively reduces healthcare costs, so that's going to reduce costs for governments.
A massive buzzword here in the UK at the moment for the strain on the NHS since the beginning of COVID, and to be fair, for a decade beforehand as well, right? So yeah, it kind of solves economic crisis as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the strain on the NHS is just a classic example. Nobody would think, shouldn't we invest our funding into aging biology to try and help the strain on the NHS? And to be clear, it's not going to help in the next 2-3 years, when obviously there's a critical crisis going on at the moment. But in the longer term, what are the costs on the NHS? It's basically older people. My wife worked in the NHS as a doctor, and what was really remarkable to her, when I first met her and started talking to her about this idea of treating aging medically, she thought I was crazy. But it doesn't matter what ward she rotated rotated round, whether it was, cancer, whether it was fractures, most of the people on those wards were older people. And, you realise by far the majority of healthcare spending happens in the last few years of your life. And that's because, the way that we treat medicine currently, we wait until you're ill and we try and solve the problem then, rather than investing in prevention. And there's a variety of different methods we can choose. We should try and improve public health as well. But I think one of the key things that's going to reduce healthcare costs in the long term is investing in the aging biology that allows us to develop the drugs that will hopefully keep people healthier for longer and keep them out of hospital.